Remington Sportsman high-speed steel. This is 1,500 foot per second, ounce and 3/8 of BB. So these things are shorter than the Federals, but longer than the Winchesters. I don't know what their fire length is going to be. I think that's what's going to determine not so much feeding, but ejection now. Perfect. Welcome back to American Arms Channel, guys. I'm Drake, and today we're going to be talking about the Gold 10 Light again. Now, it may look a little different from the last time you've seen it, and we've done a couple things to it, but nothing too major. I'd like to go over today what I did to make the gun run more reliably. I'd like to go over some of the additions I've put on it, and part of the reasoning why I've modified this gun and given it some extra kit to be more flexible than just a standard heavy goose getter. So without further ado, let's tackle the gorilla in the room. If you've been watching the channel, you know that I had some functional problems with this firearm. I sent it off to Browning, they did nothing, it came back, blah blah blah. Spent an hour and a half on the bench and it's ran great. There's only a few more things I want to do to it to make it run perfect, but let's go over what I did do to it. So the first point to correct this old girl, well, new girl, was to, as you can see, she's unloaded, was to correct a improperly milled portion of the receiver. Now, if you see right here on the bolt, there is a drag line. That's because one of the cuts in the receiver was a little proud and would drag on the bolt during cycling, whether it was dry cycling or during live fire. So I went in there and I radiused that back down. I kept the contour of that cut, but I took away a good amount of material to prevent it from causing that drag, and it has not progressed any farther from there. Next, I came into the barrel extension and I removed tool markings where the feed ramp, I'm just going to call it the feed ramp, it doesn't really have a name, but essentially it is a ramp portion to help the front of that hull feed into the chamber. So feed ramp. It had a lot of tool marks on it. I radiused it down, maintaining again the same angle, and I polished it like crazy. So if you look inside the firearm, you can absolutely see it. Then I polished the chamber and bore, of course. I like doing that with all my shotguns, but not knowing whether or not that was super necessary. It is a brand new gun after all. It had no corrosion in it, but polishing the chamber can always help with extraction issues. I then had to worry about the barrel moving back and forth a little bit, even with the barrel nut tightened down as tight as possible and the handguard on properly. And so what I did was I took some shims that I had available for an AR-15 handguard, and I installed the barrel, clipped the shims so that I could fit them around the tube without having to try and just ram them down every single time. And I ended up creating the exact spacing I need to bring the inside length of the handguard to the proper dimensions so that when I tighten down the nut, everything tightened up and the barrel was in place. That's going to help with accuracy, and that's also going to make sure that we don't have any sort of jump occurring where the gun can beat itself to death, because the barrel's shaking back and forth, which would not be good. There are a few other cosmetic issues, like the rib is not perfectly on flat, and this rib ramp here on the receiver is not perfectly square. Oh well. Outside of that, that's really all I needed to do. The last functional item that I want to change is that this extractor spring is, well, good. It's a little bit weaker than I would maybe have it be. And I think a lot of the ejection issues with the longer hulls are mostly extractor jump, where the extractor is leaving the case rim as the bolt is traveling back, so there's not really a pivot point for that cartridge hull to impinge upon and kick itself out. It's kind of just going to bounce around in the action. I believe that's part of what the double feed failures to eject and the stovepipes are. So I will fix that, but I will say it has gotten a lot better with Federals, and if I don't hold it super tight to cause that extractor jump, it typically runs all 5 shots out of the chamber and the 4 out of the mag very, very reliably. So there is that. Now we can move on to the super fun stuff, which is modifying the gun to work right. The first thing I've chosen to do is I have 2 choke tubes now. We have both from Carlson's. This is their Longbeard XR choke tube. It's the exact same as the Sporting Clays, but it is tightly choked down. This is the .705. They also make a .680 diameter choke tube, and this is their turkey choke. And they recommend that you do not fire larger than number 4 shot out of these chokes as far as steel goes, but any size lead, no slugs, all of that goodness. I've got the improved modified Sporting Clays choke in right here, brand new, haven't shot it yet, but both are a beautiful addition. They give you that extended choke tube look, that porting, and a little bit longer section to help create better patterns. I love Carlson choke tubes. They're affordable. They work really well. Honestly, they have a great value, and that's what I like in a lot of my equipment. So choke tubes were the first upgrade. Next, we have the Aimtech ASM20 Mount. This is for the Gold 10, not the Gold 10 Light. So the Browning Gold Hunter 10 gauge is what this is made for. That is the steel receiver. That is important because this mount will require modification to fit on your Gold 10 Light. What I did was essentially use a marker solution, also known as Vaseline, to provide a thin layer on the underside of it, and every time I mounted it, I would take it off, see where it was contacting, and I would remove that excess material roughly with a Dremel, and then fine-tuned it with hand sanding and polishing, and then did a slight refinish on that aluminum to prevent corrosion. So I do need to do a couple more things to make sure this is completely squared away as far as corrosion goes, but this definitely worked fine for me this season. But if you need a mount or are looking for a mount, you can't find the B-square, the ASM20 mounts by Aimtech Solutions or Aimtech Mount Systems, I should say, are available, but they are hit or miss. They haven't made them in quite a while. They are out of production. So it's going to be limited new old stock and used stock. Don't feel too bad though. They're not too expensive. I picked this one up for 85 bucks. I'm going to bet you're going to find them for less than 100. On top of that is a Vortex Crossfire. Now, this has been a very durable optic. Somehow I have banged it and put a few scuffs in the aluminum, but oh well. It's a hunting and AR optic. It doesn't have to be perfect and pretty. It just needs to work, especially on this beast of a shotgun, and that it does. So the only shell I've had offset this as far as remove the zero, and it was noticeable jump, is the Warwolf triple mega ball. And while at the shoulder it didn't feel like it was a lot of hit because it's only 3 balls going 875 feet per second. It's also 3 1/4 or 3 3/8 ounces of lead going down range. So it did shove the gun enough that it knocked this, but even with heavier recoiling loads, this optic has been very reliable. More testing is needed, but a nice red dot is definitely a benefit for deer and turkey hunting. Not of course for waterfowl, but for deer and turkey hunting, this saddle and red dot sight mount system is very, very handy. Next, we have the Beartooth Products adjustable neoprene comb riser, cheek pad, shell holder, sleeve, I guess is what you could call it. Only had it for a little while, but this is a nice little addition. It's a non-permanent addition again. All of this can be removed from the gun, put it back to factory original. But this is going to give me the rise for my face that I need to center up on my optic. It lets me carry 4 shells, which is nice. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it holds them very tightly, and I don't feel that I'm going to lose them. And it comes with a foam pad of many different sizes that you can either stack or use as singles. I've positioned mine as a right-hand offset to get onto my cheek and push my head up high enough so that I have a nice, consistent, solid mount to see that red dot and shoot. And I will say, after trying it with a couple loads of heavy recoiling 10 gauge, this is a 2 1/4 ounce Remington load, turkey load, and there's also fired the Warwolf 2.5 ounce, and I fired plenty of the standard duck loads and goose loads from Remington and Federal out of it as well. Very nice, because this gun does like to jump up a little bit and smack you in the face if you let it. So this has been really nice. I'm probably going to keep this on for season. I'll take the pad out, but for duck and goose season, I'll probably keep that neoprene on just to soften the touch on the cheek just a little bit. But other than that, really, really simple modifications. The only thing left I think I could possibly want to do is the addition of a extended magazine tube by Briley Manufacturing. I have their charging handle for my SBE3. Love it. Their quality seems top-notch. So the $200 it would take to get that extended magazine tube is definitely worth it. Plus, you can be the guy that can brag. I've got an 8-shot 10 gauge semi-automatic. So that's pretty cool. But one last thing to remember on my part is one last modification to help the gun feed more reliably has been I took a Wolf Springs plus 25% power or extra power, whatever it's called, magazine tube spring, the 12 gauge variant. The factory spring was not really any bigger diameter, so I put that in here. It was actually harder to install than reinstalling the factory one. It has given me plenty of tension and reliable feeding. So top notch. Few items to update or to modify or add to your Browning Gold 10 Light to bring it into a completely different class. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's run a little long, but just wanted to give you a breakdown of what I'm doing with the Gold 10 and why it looks the way it is, and you'll see it more in videos to come. But that's what I did to modify it, and that is what I've done to accessorize it. Everybody loves accessorizing their guns, don't they? Oh, it feels so very, very nice. All right, guys, as always, God bless, keep your powder dry. I'll see you in the next video.